Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be around the world or whenever you're watching the live stream replay. My name is Nathan Ingram. So happy you're here with us for office hours today as part of hosting.com's agency success. Every Thursday, you get to pop in and ask whatever you would like to talk about. The floor is yours. We do get started with a few bits of WordPress news that I think are important for those of us that are serving clients. But then the floor is yours. So I invite you to ask your questions using the link that is waiting on you in the chat. Or if you can't join us live, just go to wpnathan.com. That's just a demo site. But at the top right corner, you'll see a big blue button that says Ask a Question, and that'll let you get your question in the queue for office hours. So feel free to drop in a question there, and we'll get started here with a little bit of agency news here with the weekly brief. So out of the gate, you may have realized this week, if you're a hosting.com customer on Tuesday, you couldn't log into your cPanels or WHM, and there was a really good reason for that. There was a massive vulnerability that was responsibly disclosed to cPanel, and it was being mitigated across many hosts this week, including hosting.com. This is essentially every cPanel server on the internet was impacted by this bug that was discovered by Watchtower, which is a security firm. There's a link here if you want to read the nitty-gritty about that security exploit, but it was basically something that would allow a person to just have root access to your WHM. So that's not great. And so I'm grateful that hosting.com took all that login capability offline until they could get the patches applied, even though I got in my way. I was trying to do some work, but it's much better to, not have hackers in my server than to be delayed on some work I wanted to do for a few hours. So I'm grateful for the hosting.com security response to this. You can read a little article about what happened here from hosting.com, and here is the full unpacking of the CVE around this exploit from cPanel. And it was a pretty significant exploit. So really glad we didn't have any particular issues on our server. And hopefully you didn't either. All right. Next up on the list, WordPress 7.0. This is the same thing we talked about last week, but if you weren't with us, you should probably be aware that the date is firm now for WordPress 7.0. It will drop in about a month, or like 3 weeks from now, on May the 20th. That is a Wednesday, and they'll be dropping releases every Wednesday up until May the 20th, when 7.0 will be available for download. Now, this is a major version, like lots of stuff added to this version. So, in the past few major version releases of WordPress have not really been that major. It's mostly block editor and site editor stuff. If you're not using that stuff, it wasn't a whole lot to get excited about. Many things in WordPress 7.0, and this is definitely one that you'll want to make sure that you are fully testing. Maybe absolutely wait for that .1 to release because the 7.0.1 is what I'm talking about. That first minor release, because there are lots of things that are new in WordPress 7.0. The flagship feature, as we've been talking about here, is this real-time collaboration feature, which if you've ever used Google Docs with a person and you can kind of see what they're doing, that's the way the block editor is going to be in WordPress 7 if you're using the block editor. Now, if you're using a page builder, this isn't going to work. But it will work in the block editor. And that feature is really what's delayed the shipping of WordPress 7. They're even still right now deliberating how they're going to ship this. And it's particularly the impact on, shall we say, not great hosting. Like if you're on a really weak shared server, the real-time collaboration stuff might get a little problematic. And so they're still trying to sort some of those things out. Other really big features in WordPress 7 include the AI connectors that are going to let you connect your favorite AI tool right there into WordPress. The admin redesign where data views, and that's like the page and post list, for example. Totally redesign, much quicker, more app-like. So I'm really looking forward to that. visual revisions. So if you're particularly, again, this applies to if you're using the block editor. Like right now, you can open the WordPress revisions and pages and posts and drag that little timeline bar, and you can see, but it's all kind of in text and it's red and green. The new view in WordPress 7 is actually going to be the blocks that were changed. And so it's a much better visual revisions flow. And finally, they are bumping the minimum PHP to 7.4 with 8.2 or higher recommended in WordPress 7. So this is a big release. I'm looking forward to playing with it. And hopefully you are too. There's some pretty cool stuff here. All right. Third thing that happened since last week, it was actually a week ago today that OpenAI shipped ChatGPT 5.5. Now, major revision for ChatGPT. They're calling it the smartest model they've released. I mean, of course they would, but still, it's specifically designed to be more agentic, meaning you can give it stuff to do and it'll just go do it without asking you a whole bunch of questions. So that's really cool. Claude's been doing that for a while. This part is like ChatGPT catching back up to where Claude was on some of these things. They've showcased some interesting use cases of writing and debugging and research and data analysis, creating documents and spreadsheet and other software. It does some really neat things. And if you're a ChatGPT person, I think you'll really like this upgrade. It's available right now if you're a paying member in your GPT browser or app or whatever you're using. Now, the biggest, I think, piece of this is that ChatGPT is now retiring that old DALL-E 3 image generator. And so they have released in its place what they've called ChatGPT Images 2.0. DALL-E is going to be officially retired in a couple of weeks on May the 12th. And supposedly, I haven't had time to play with this yet, but supposedly ChatGPT Images 2 is better than Google's Nano Banana image generator that's part of Google Gemini. And I'll tell you, Nano Banana is pretty darn good. And so if ChatGPT Images is equally good, that's a high bar. So I haven't had time to play with it yet, but if maybe you can, and let me know what you think. But it's supposed to be a really great addition. All right, something else. This is there's an article on the repository, which, as you may or may not know, I think repository is probably the best source for WordPress news. There's legitimate journalism there, and Ray Morey is not only a delightful human being that I've gotten to meet a couple of times, but also like she's hardcore journalist. Like she does the research and does the work. So I love the repository, and there's an article op-ed written by Jake Goldman, who's the founder of 10up and now a partner in Fueled, which is in a WordPress enterprise agency, where he's talking about how AI is starting to replace work and what his clients, the changing expectations of his clients. His core point is that his clients are about to expect the same outputs faster and cheaper, both faster and cheaper. So do you remember, how many of you remember that faster, cheaper little tool? Like they had the three little sliders, and it was like, it can be fast, cheap, or good. Pick two, right? Remember that whole thing? Fast, good, cheap. That's it. And there's a .com or something like that. Anyway, my point is, he's saying that his enterprise level clients expect all three now. And the realistic thing is that AI might be able to deliver that if you're really working it into your workflow. And he says that saying you use AI is not the same as having changed how you scope, price, and deliver work. Now, the caveat, yes, they're dealing with enterprise level clients, and maybe your clients haven't caught up to this, but this is a signal. It's going to filter down even to the most basic of all clients that, yeah, AI is making everything we do. It gives us more capabilities, and we'll be able to do it more quickly, and maybe in some cases even better than we could before if it was just us doing the work. So it's something we have to lean into and understand, and it's affecting everything. So this is an interesting read. I highly recommend this article. All right, let's talk about some things going on at Automatic when it comes to AI. So there's been some, there have been things that have been said in the public about Automatic's not really developing very fast and doing they're just kind of resting on their laurels, as it were. So Automatic has kicked off this internal initiative they've called Radical Speed Month, where two-person teams throughout Automatic have been given the authority to just go do it, right? And so they're going around the normal design, product, marketing gates of approval to get things done in various projects. And these teams are making some interesting headway, according to what they've said. So, for example, Brian Cords, who is one of the leads on WooCommerce, is prototyping AI native context modeling for WordPress. Job Thomas and John Bossinger are fixing WooCommerce emails landing in spam folders. The Gutenberg team is working on something they've called WordPress Studio meets Vibe Coders. And so Automatic has just basically said, go for it. See what you can do in 30 days. And this is good news because hopefully other companies will follow suit. But Automatic is saying basically, look, we're not stuck in the past. We can do some things. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of this and what more of these sorts of cohorts that are given some freedom can really do. Because if you study tech and the evolution of the tech industry, it's always these little independent skunkworks type teams underneath tech companies that really, when they're given the freedom to just blow out the regular, corporate ladder approval, that whole system, and actually just go do something and build something cool, they surprise everybody. And so across the board, if more software developers are adopting this approach, wow, I mean, the sky's the limit as far as the cool things that could be built. Pretty neat stuff. All righty. So another little mention here is if you're a paid membership pro user and fan like I am, Kim Coleman, who's the co-founder, teased a new product earlier. Well, it was late last week, called PM Pro Max. And this is basically a full stack service where Paid Memberships Pro is going to be offering hosting, software, support, custom development, like a holistic package. It's the first time they've ever done that. They've always catered toward WordPress developers like us who want to implement the product for the client. And that's not stopping. They're just also offering a full service solution themselves, going right at the end user. And this is a trend that I'm seeing it all over the place with other plugin companies where they're real. And this, by the way, was a big discussion at PressConf this year, that selling a plugin as a product is not very competitive anymore on its own. And so the future, plugin companies feel that the future is wrapping a productized plugin up in a service offering to the customer. And that's really interesting, especially if you've been in this world for a while, because a lot of people who are in product today and building plugins and selling plugins and support and so forth started out in the client services area. And they built this plugin for a client and thought, oh, wow, like we could sell this plugin to other people. And so then they got out of service and started doing product. And now this is one of the continental shifts that AI has brought. And that's that folks are moving back into services from just product, because honestly, the product is a lot easier to build today than it ever has been before. So it's an interesting conversation. I don't know what it means specifically for me or us or you or anybody right now, other than this is a shift that I think you'll begin to see more and more WordPress plugin companies making. All right. Next story. Okay. So last week we talked about this announcement from the developer of Contact Form 7, Takayuki Miyoshi. Was doing a talk at WordCamp Asia, and people thought that he said that they were sunsetting Contact Form 7. So JK, LOL, CF7, maybe not going away. I don't know. It's hard to say, really. But what he's rolled back basically what he talked about. And maybe he was just thinking off the cuff and didn't realize that people would quote him in this talk or whatever. He's putting most of their resources in this new product called Contactable, which is a platform-based form plugin. And so he said, no, Contact Form 7 isn't being abandoned. We're just shifting some of our resources over here. I mean, I don't know. But the bottom line is We talked last week or the week before about Contact Form 7 finally being sunsetted, and that's not the case. Although it sure seemed that way, but he's rolled that back. Anyway, there you go, for whatever it's worth. Okay, last little thing here. And y'all, this is the amount of cool plugins that are being written now with AI is strong. It's really amazing. And this is one, I mean, I don't know how practical this is really. I really don't. Like, I don't think I'd ever use this on an actual site. I mean, maybe just for kicks, but it's called WordPress desktop mode. And it's basically somebody experimenting to figure out what could we actually do with the WordPress admin area. And so Danielle Lopez and Roberto Aranda and Claude, who is credited in the plugin credits on the GitHub page, have created this experimental plugin that transforms your WP admin area into essentially Windows. So look, take a look at this. Again, I don't know how practical it is, but it's clever. All right, so here, this is the WordPress plugin, pardon me, Playground, by the way, in which this desktop mode plugin has been added. And if you want the link, let me just drop this again in the chat. If you'd like to download the slide deck, which has this link, there it is. Okay, so here's WordPress, right? This is just WordPress. Right up here, we're going to switch to desktop mode and watch what happens. It's a window. I can close it. I can go over here to posts. And that's a window. And you can move it around like it was like you're in the desktop. And here's pages. And I can do posts and pages. Is this not crazy? So we can edit this. And I mean, Sue, if you come on with the practical questions. Sue wants to know, what does this help us do? I don't know. It's just cool. It's like, why not? And you can click arrange and it'll like move your windows, like fix your windows. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But you can have all these windows open and, do all the things. It is kind of like having multiple tabs open in a browser, but it's all right here in your WordPress. It's interesting, right? Okay, so Elizabeth wants to know, will it work over a page that you're designing? Okay, it will if you're designing in the block editor, right? And here's your stuff over here, and you can work on over here. Now, if you're using a page builder with a front end layout, no, obviously, because you're be on the front end of the site, right? But if you're in the back end, there it is. And again, look, I don't know. It's just, who would have thought of this? It's these two people and Claude. So there you have it. That is WordPress desktop mode. Let's see. There is one more thing I want to mention today, and that is, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how we lost a beloved member of our community, Beth Livingston. And there's a few of us that are kind of helping to sort out some of her business affairs. And it's just a reminder for all of us, what would happen if the unexpected or the unthinkable occurred to us? Like what would happen to your business, or more importantly, even to your loved ones who had to pick up the pieces of your business if you suddenly passed away? What does that look like? Because even for someone who is pretty organized, there's just a lot to deal with. So the rock I want to leave in your shoe is, what happens? Do people have your master password? Is that somewhere that's accessible? What does that look like? How hard would it be for your spouse, your significant other, your good friend that you trust or whatever? How hard would it be to step into your business and unpack all the things you're doing and find your client list and figure out how to handle that and so forth? It's like Sue is saying, domains, getting access to, it's just so many things that we just do as part of our brain. But what if we're not around? There's a lot, and I am not ready for it. I will just say that right away. I am not ready for it. And this whole process has made me realize very much just how not ready for that I am. So anyway, there's a rock in your shoe for the week. Let me leave you with the upcoming events list. Here's our link bundle in the chat. If you would like to register for any of our upcoming live streams, we have several that are interesting. Of course, Thursday, every office hours, you can access that here. May the 12th and 26th coming up, two live streams all about Cloudflare. That's a constant source of questions here in office hours about various Cloudflare things. And so we'll be doing two live streams about using Cloudflare practically in doing our agency client work. Basics on May the 12th and more advanced topics on May the 26th. And I'll be answering all your questions throughout on that topic as well. Also, we have a really interesting live stream on Tuesday, May the 19th, all about referrals. So if you are invested in referrals in your business, make sure you sign up for that one. Okay. Let's see where we are on questions. Looks like we currently have 6 questions in the list, so still plenty of space for you to ask your question, and the link to do so is there in the chat. Let's get started with the first question in the list, which belongs to Tanya. Hey, Tanya. Tanya says, with the Smart Slider 3 snafu behind us, what can we do about Pro version update security? Solid security did less than nothing. I am now gun shy about updating Pro plugins. So if you didn't hear about it, a hacker gained access to S3 and pushed out a special update for their Pro plugin, which was full of malware. Yeah, it was a nasty supply chain attack that, you know, the place from which your WordPress site would know to download the plugin, which you would normally trust, that source had malware injected in the zip file that was the plugin. So it was nasty, nasty, nasty. So let's talk about that because, okay, solid security. What was it supposed to do in that situation? Not a lot. Well, solid security itself. And the way I understand this also, this wasn't obfuscated malware either. Now, I could be wrong about this because I haven't gone deep into this exploit, but I don't think anything of it was like encoded with base 64, like a lot of things are. It was just calling out to different places and to inject things into your site or to grant access. And in those cases, malware scanners, period, aren't going to pick that up. Now, the best thing you can do to keep yourself safe from something like this is to have something like PatchStack involved. So if you were using a plugin like Solid Security or something else that gave you PatchStack firewall, as soon as PatchStack knew about it, which was pretty early on, they immediately released a remediation for it. So you were effectively, it was virtually patched in the PatchStack firewall. So if you don't have something like that, that's something to consider on, what you might implement. Now, PatchStack you can implement directly through them with their plugin. It's not cheap, but this is excellent, probably the best protection for this sort of exploit that you're ever going to be able to find. There are other services like WordPress dashboard type, multiple site management tools that also offer PatchStack. But that's what we use, and that's what I recommend. It's the case for multiple tiers of security, each of which does a different thing. Ideally, for these quick exploit 0-day type vulnerabilities, you really need something at the network level like PatchStack that can filter out that malicious traffic as it's trying to hit an exploit. But it is a mess, and another great takeaway for this is, honestly, make sure you know who your plugin vendors are. I'd never used Smart Slider 3, had never heard of it. I don't know anything about the reputation of the developers, how long they've been around or anything like that. But the fact is they let their S3 bucket get infiltrated by an attacker. And so, we need to take a hard look at that. And what do your other plugin vendors, how do they handle that sort of thing? So it's again, it goes back to evaluating which plugins do I trust? What am I going to put in my stack? And are these plugin developers reliable? And especially these days, as AI makes finding and exploiting vulnerabilities easier and easier and easier every day, are they taking good security precautions to protect their infrastructure? All right. It's a great question, Tanya, and it gave me some opportunities for rabbit trails. So thank you very much for that. All right. Did we answer that question good enough, Tanya? because the next question is also from Tanya. Okie dokie. Next up, Tanya. So Tanya's next question is, with the new WordPress about to drop with access to AI, what safeguards have been put into place to stop this from happening? Article: Claude erased the database and all backups for a company during a coding session. And this is a great article because let me get rid of that query string and I will drop this link in the chat. It's been covered on just about every tech platform. And maybe you've seen this. Okay, look. First of all, what are these knuckleheads doing giving Claude access to their whole company's live database with no backup? I mean, come on. What? I mean, let me just ask this. Do y'all know better than that? There may be a nuance to the story that I haven't heard yet, but under no circumstances should you give your AI tool access to a database without making a backup, right? Yeah. So there you have it. So yeah, is it possible for AI to wipe your database? Of course. AI will do what you tell it to, and if you let it go forward without any stops in place, it'll do destructive things if it thinks that that's right. And if you've been using AI as long as I have, and you see it do something stupid or tell you something stupid and you correct it, it goes, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. You're right." Except for, wow, you just erased our whole company database. So yeah, AI is not perfect. It's flawed. It is a superb tool that can do miraculous seemingly things today. But for heaven's sakes, you got to put boundaries around it. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the headline here should be okay. So headline: SUV drives into crowd of people. No, 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 no. It's not the SUV's fault. It's the driver of the SUV. Am I right? So Claude erased the database. Did you what? No, there was somebody in there with fingers on the keyboard doing things. Like the headline should be, knuckleheaded developer gives AI tool access to database and wipes out companies, whatever. Right? Okay, Paul, unless it was a driverless SUV. Fair enough. So anyway, we're going to see headlines like this because this grabs headlines. People see this, Claude erased it, and they're going to click it, right? So news is a product today, like anything else, and they write headlines and news. Things make news because it makes people angry or scared, and that's period, like across the board. News that gets clicks is news that makes people angry or scared, and you see stories like this. So, I mean, get under the surface and think, why would you give Claude anyway? Tanya, thank you for 2 soapboxes right in a row. All right. Does anybody else want to talk about this? Have I missed a piece of this that we should cover? Because wow. Okay, one more thing. One more thing. There's an opportunity here for us. Okay, lean into AI. Lean into it. It's not going anywhere. There's problems with AI. Lots of problems. Global people problems and environmental those problems exist, and many of them concern me desperately as a person. Also, I know that it's not going anywhere. So with that on the side, look, we got to lean into it, and there is a huge opportunity now and for the next few years, that if you're really on the edge of AI, you can do things for your clients you could never do before, and start to provide AI consulting services and help them understand these things and how not to be the next idiot that lets Claude delete your database. Listen, there's a huge opportunity here. So don't be afraid of it. Lean into it, learn it, get in with other people who are doing it. And I think it's a huge opportunity. So, okay, I'm done. If you would like to ask a question, and if you have another soapbox opportunity, please use the link that is in the chat. Next up is Paul. Oh, okay. Before we do this, class has the comment of the day in the chat. When we talk about clients and AI, class says I can't even get clients to use secure passwords. Okay, I relate to that. Can we all just have a little laugh with class? Because that's 100% true. But look, you can be the one supplying the solution to help the client. So, anyway, okay. So, speaking of AI client solutions, and now Paul asked about token usage. How is token usage calculated in something like Claude? How concerned do I have to be about burning through them? Is the $100 a month plan worth it? Oh, three fantastic questions. Okay. How is token usage calculated? I don't know fully, other than when I do big things, more tokens happen. And actually, I kind of do know, but it's like this. A token is essentially how much gas are you burning in the engine for AI, right? It's their measurement of compute power, basically. So it's like gasoline in your engine. Like how much fuel in the tank are you burning? And if you're on the $17 a month Claude plan, you've got a little teeny tiny gas tank and it's burning through that gas. If you're on the $100 a month plan, it's much larger of a gas tank, but still finite. And there's a number of tokens that it's going to burn through. So the more stuff you're telling AI to do, the more tokens it's going to burn. Now, here's the tricky thing. Okay. In a conversation with AI, if it gets to be a very long conversation, every new message you add at the end, it's looking back through and looping through that whole conversation to answer it. So the longer that conversation goes, the more documents it's digested, links that it's pulled in, things that it's gone out in a browser tab and looked at. That's all context. And every answer it makes is looping back through all of that. And so it's getting more and more. It takes more and more tokens to answer the same questions as the conversation goes. So it's calculated that way. How concerned do I have to be about burning through them? Well, none. You don't have to be concerned at all if you're okay with Claude going, you're done for the next 2 hours. Like, go sit in the corner, Paul, because you've eaten all of your snack until 4 o'clock p.m. Like, you don't get another snack until 4 o'clock p.m. or whatever. That's the way it is. So you have to decide how how important is it for you to be able to continue working. If AI has become enough of a part of your workflow that you're constantly hitting the usage limits, maybe it's time to upgrade. And I will tell you that I have upgraded to the $100 a month Claude plan, and I'm not looking back. It is, I get, I mean, don't tell Claude this, but I get way more than $100 a month of value out of that. I mean, the $17 a month that I was paying for Claude or Chat GPT was the biggest, best money I was ever spending. I was getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars of value a month out of that. And now this $100 a month plan is even bigger than that. So all that to say, I am not currently hitting my token burn. I almost did this morning. I got to 92% because I was doing some heavy lifting this morning. And I was using Opus to do it, which is the biggest, the model that consumes it's the hungriest token model. So is it worth it? Depends. It's like asking your accountant or lawyer anything, right? It's like, it depends. Depends. Are you using it enough to justify that? Are you routinely hitting your limits? I'll tell you for me that I didn't upgrade to the $100 a month plan until like I was hitting those limits all the time. And it got to be a hindrance to work. So I bumped up. So there you go. So does that answer your question, Paul? Is that fair enough? Anybody else have a corresponding type question? All right, next up is Tanya, who just had to drop off. I'm sorry, Tanya. Tanya's question in absentia is anyone else having issues with the drag and drop functionality on blocks? I've tested several sites using Cadence on different servers, and one site that is just a seed prod coming soon page, both block options, are not allowing me to drag and drop the blocks. They won't even drag drop in the file tree. Ooh. Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to bet, well, the first thing I would look at is browser extensions. So Tanya, Go into that in like a guest browser where there's no browser extensions active and log in and see if it's still happening. Um, so like the mechanism that lets you drag and drop is a JavaScript, and it could be something weird with a browser extension interfering with that. The other thing I would say is the thing we all hate to hear, which is you should probably try emptying your browser cache because you may have some bumping heads of JavaScripts, or just try it in a new browser altogether. Like if you're a Chrome person, try it in Firefox or Safari or Edge or whatever you have. Just try it in a different browser and see if that's the issue. Um, it's likely not your site. If it is your site, then you have a plugin conflict in WordPress. And so, hey, have you tried turning off your default, putting on your default theme and disabling all your plugins and see if it still happens? Because that's the next step. There you go. So that's where I would go with that, Tanya. It is definitely a conflict either with caching, extensions, or a plugin. That's where I'm going to stick on that. And I bet it's one of those three. All righty. Yeah, Sean is mentioning you can use an incognito window if you want. Sometimes people have browser extensions set to still show up in incognito. That's why I usually suggest guest browser because all of that's off by default, but incognito works just fine too, as long as your browser extensions aren't active. And by active, I mean not just that they're not showing up here, but that they're like literally not active, like they are toggled off in the area here, because you can still have an extension active and it not show up in the toolbar as pinned. So there you go. Good luck, Tanya. All right, folks, we have 2 questions left and still a little bit of time. So if you have a question to ask, please use that link in the chat. And next up is Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie. All righty. Bonnie, our host uses Lightspeed Cache. So does hosting.com. I was checking it out and it asks if I want to enable the Quick Cloud CDN. Could you explain this a bit? Yes, I can. Okay. So, Bonnie, were you with us on Tuesday when we talked about the image problem, where we unpacked images and CDNs and all that sort of thing? Okay. So, Lightspeed is the server that is running underneath all the things. Are you on hosting.com, Bonnie, or another host? Anyway, a local host. Oh, a host that is local to you. Okay, got it. So they're using Lightspeed, which is great. Lightspeed is way faster than Apache, which is kind of the standard web hosting platform out there, a web server out there. Lightspeed is fantastic. Love it. It's faster even than Nginx. It has its own internal, like under the hood caching. You don't even have to have the WordPress plugin active to take advantage of Lightspeed speed. The plugin gives you access to other things like an object cache and page optimizations, JavaScript and CSS and all those things. One of them in the plugin is this Quick Cloud CDN. Now, what they want to do with this is to offload the image problem onto their CDN. Now, the downside with this, and it's good. It really is good. Everything I've read about it, we don't use it, but everything, by we, I mean my agency, everything I've read about it and people who I know use it, they think it's great, it's fast, it works wonderfully, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is you have to change your name servers. And what that means is, practically speaking, you got to choose between Cloudflare and Quick Cloud. And for me, that is a no-brainer. Cloudflare for the win, just because of all the security features that we get at the network level in Cloudflare. It is an irreplaceable part of our stack today. So that has, simply by virtue of you got to give them your name servers, ruled out Quick Cloud from our stack. Yep. So there you go. Does that answer your question? It's a great product. And everything I read about it, it's consistently good if you want to give them your name servers. Note, by the way, the other, like when we talked about the image problem, many WordPress image optimizing plugins have an image CDN, like All of them that I listed, my mind just went blank. Smush and Imagify and Short Pixel and EDub, they have an image CDN. Those do not require a name server change, which is really nice. So you can use those, but this particular one, the Quick Cloud, does require a name server change. So there you go. I am down to the last question. Is that possible? This is the last question, everybody. And it's from Paul. Okay. Paul says, have you used any plugins from the Claude marketplace? What are they? And should I be looking at them? Okay. Plugins from the Claude marketplace are slightly vetted, meaning no guarantees. It's still something of the Wild West. Not as bad as the OpenClaw marketplace was, right? But still, you really got to know what you're looking at there. So if you were going to, and I guess, Paul, my question back to you would be, is there one of these you're looking at that we can just take a quick peek at? Because so far I've not used any Claude plugins other than their official ones. And they're really skills, not plugins, like the WordPress developer skill that you can attach to Claude, that sort of thing. But there's this whole marketplace of whatever. Where we've found what we've chosen to do instead is to take an MCP server approach to a lot of things. Like, for example, this is a perfect example. We use Nifty as a project management tool. It's not the best. It's the one we chose. It was an AppSumo deal. Project management software, you pick the one you hate the least, right? We've talked about this already. So we use Nifty. It's fine. It does what we want. It's fine. I'm not wild about it, but it's fine. But there, it has the ability, it has an API. And so when I say we or me, I mean the royal me or we, meaning me, we, and Claude, took a look at the API documentation that Nifty provided, and we built an MCP server. Now, an MCP server is simply a translator that sits between Claude or your AI tool of choice and the app that you're wanting to talk to. And it lets your typey in the AI tool translate into things happening in your application. And so we created an API key. We put that built a securely, the token lives securely locally, and Claude is able to use that connection. And so it lets me do things like, as I'm now planning my week with Claude, it creates to-do items for me in Nifty. That's pretty darn cool. Now, that's not a plugin, but it's an MCP server. And so that's the approach we've chosen to take. I've not seen a need yet for plugins, although this may be something I just need to research more, because maybe there's some cool stuff out there. But it's not the approach we've taken as far as AI. Does that make sense? In the MCP server, this is one of the things that it would behoove anyone who is currently using AI in their work to get more familiar with. MCP servers are magic. They're just magic. They let you connect your tools to all sorts of neat things. Like in the AI mastermind that I'm running, if I'm doing something in Claude and it's pretty cool, I have it's connected to my Google Drive via an MCP server. And so I can just tell it, document what we just did and add that to our shared Google Docs library as a markdown document. Like, it knows how to do this already. And so it just documents it, boom, 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 and it sticks it out there in the Google Drive. It's just, now there's a Google Drive file that's out there. It's just amazing. It shortcuts like all the copy paste work and the repetitive work. It just short circuits all of that. And so that's the next level of AI that's just waiting on you to discover it. So Paul's saying he can do the same thing with teamwork. Yeah, exactly. This is going to sound pejorative, but most good apps like Teamwork have an API or a full-fledged MCP server that you can connect your AI tool to. Just make sure you don't delete your database. What could go wrong? Anyway, thanks for that, Paul. All right, a couple more questions have come in, and I'm getting all choked up. Melanie is next. All right. Interesting. All right. Melanie would like to know, have you used Claude Cowork to work on tasks on a WordPress website? If so, can you give examples? Why, yes, I can, but I don't use Claude Cowork. I used Claude Cowork for maybe 2 weeks, and I just went straight to Claude Code. Claude Cowork is a dummied down version of Claude Code. I still use everything in the Mac app, but you can toggle between chat, cowork, and code. And what I've found is that all the things that I want to do, like if I'm writing files locally or uploading things or connecting to MCP servers and whatever, Claude Cowork is just it's kind of like a Claude Code. This is going to sound I stand by it. It's like Claude Code for Dummies, basically. Like it's a simplified version of Claude Code made for more mainstream users. Is that fair? It's still pretty powerful and it'll do a lot of things. But as soon as you get in, if you're trying to do automations and have things happen, pardon me, Claude Code is where you want to be. And Chris, who is here today, Chris is beyond me on this because he uses Claude Code the old-fashioned way in the terminal, and I'm not there yet. I'm still in the app, but it spawns multiple agents and does things, and so I'm happy with it at the moment. But Chris is like geek level above me on this and does things in the terminal. So yes, examples. Okay, I will give a. Okay, here's an example. This is a project that we have worked on for several years. Okay. And it's a scholarly study that looks at laws in every state of the United States in regard to religious liberty. Like what is the religious freedoms that are, what are the religious freedoms that are protected by every state? And then it puts them in a ranking and that sort of thing. So we're in the process of rebuilding the 2026 version of this. And so there's a lot of manual tasks in this for us, but like one of them, I'll go here to the state of Alabama, which is my state. One of them is, okay, we have to select a new cover image for every state. And there are requirements on this, like the client really wants it to be more of a landscape photo, not really a city photo. And there's just and this is now going to be the fifth, is that right? Yeah, fifth one of these that we've built. And so we can't reuse photos. We don't want two that are the same and whatever. Okay. So this is what we did. I told Claude, okay, here's the live websites. And then I spun up the old ones that are no longer live on a local host. I gave Claude access. I showed him I showed Claude where all the things are. And it went through and spidered every page to figure out what are, and we actually connected to these using Nova Mira, which is an MCP for WordPress. We connected, and it went through the database. It pulled out what are all the images that we've used, and it made a catalog and an index of those. And then it said, okay, let's go suggest what are some attractions in every state that we haven't used yet that we should go look for images for. So it figured all that out. And then it went through and selected, like 2 or 3 or 4, I forget, maybe it was 5. I'll keep going, 6. I don't know. A bunch of images for every state from deposit photos where I, like you probably, have a bunch of credits sitting there from AppSumo. And it pulled all those down locally into a folder on my desktop, foldered by state. So there's like Alabama and 5 or 6 images. And there was a folder inside Alabama that was called recommended. And it put the photo that it liked based on its visual judgment of the other photos as the recommended photo. Now, it did all of this because it has the right in that conversation to write to my desktop. So it went out and grabbed all the things and put them all there. Blew me away. I had to fix like 5 or 6 out of 50. 5 or 6 out of 50. And then it was good. So then what did we do? We went out and we did this. So I told Claude, okay, I want you to build me oh, I took it down already. You can't see it. That's horrible. Okay, so I told Claude, go build an HTML page where it's like a contact sheet, if you're familiar with old-fashioned terminology, like a grid of all the thumbnail size versions of these images on a page with a client with a button where they could click approve or reject, and you could click it and it would open a light box. Like I just told it to do this, and it went and built that HTML, uploaded it to the server by itself because there is locally on my computer an SSH key to connect to brilliantly.net. So it didn't have to have that login information. It was present on the operating system already. So it just used that existing path, uploaded all the files, built the thing, and boom, there it was. That took about an hour. An hour from thinking about what this looks like to, actually doing it. That task normally takes many hours. And I usually hand that off to to somebody else to do it. And it's just, okay. So yeah. Then this is where it's crazy. For the dev site for this next year. All right. We know which images are selected. I went and purchased all those images and put them in a folder on the desktop, the full res versions. It went through and uploaded them programmatically through the MCP. It deleted the existing featured image on the state. It replaced it with the new one, and it updated the caption. This is a custom field on the custom post type for states. It updated all of that in one shot. That took about 3 or 4 minutes to do. So you want something practical? That was probably 2 or 3 days worth of work that was done in a matter of a few hours. We're just on the cusp of what AI is going to do. Sue, I had to go grab images from deposit photos. I gave it that restriction because we have credits there and, so forth. Now, all that to say, of the 5 or 6 images that it picked, some of them were horrible. Like, why would you? Horrible. But I only actually had to replace 5 or 6 of them. What is North Carolina on that? Now you got me worried, Sue. This is the current one. Let's look at North Carolina. Oh yeah, they're. Talk to me about that later, Sue. Okay, we got to wrap. I've got a hard stop at 2, so let's try to knock out these last couple of questions quickly. Jeffrey is next. Yes. I've lost my window. Here we go. Okay. Jeffrey says, related to your last question, have you been building Claude skills? Have you thought about sharing any with the community? Are you really excited about this? I have been building Claude skills where it makes sense. Like, for example, to build this deck every week is a Claude skill. And so it's a whole process that goes out and looks at newsletters that are tagged in my Gmail account. It goes out and grabs the articles in a browser tab. It helps me write, I decide which ones I think are important. It helps me write the summary. It goes out and grabs these images, and then it builds the slide deck based on a set of predefined. Now that's all in a skill, and this took me a while to get together. Like, it took a while to get that all processed out. But once it's done, now it's just, except for today, it really borked up all over the place. But had to revise the thing. But yeah, skills make sense. And I have skills built for a number of different things that we do. And it does make sense. All of them that I have are very personalized. And honestly, I think that's the way things are going. Like, the idea here is this. If you're an agency owner, and like, you've heard me, if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, it's all about systems and processes, keeping things consistent, building systems in your business. And if you've built systems in your business, the next step is look at that system and decide, what can I do? What can AI do as part of this? What can it remember and think about and accomplish? And like, which pieces of this can AI just do? And start to build systems, and skills become a piece of that system that you build uniquely for yourself. And really, like, you just tell, like, I'm not building it. I'm telling Claude to build it, and then I'm refining it when it doesn't work and we have to iterate and whatever. Jeffrey says he's trying to build a Claude skill to transform sites to headless. That's a big thing. Nothing I'm doing is on that grand of a scale. It's really more like skills in my world are more like very particular automations. It's like a whole bunch of steps and decisions put together in one package so that it knows how to do that over and over and over again. All right, last but not least, when you are working alone in your office, what percentage are you typing versus talking? Oh, I'm afraid my typing skills are getting less and less. Let me see. Let me get my stats for WhisperFlow. So I am speaking 140 words per minute. Really? Okay, I don't know. That's fast. So I'm in the top 17% of speaking, apparently, speaking words per minute. I have dictated 213,000 words. So many things. Yeah, so I'm using it a lot. I'm finding myself typing much, much less, and I like it. It's especially helpful when I'm interacting with AI. And this, by the way, is WhisperFlow. Okay, it celebrated itself. And it's absolutely worth the monthly that I'm paying for it. Absolutely love it. Okay, I believe that brings us to the end. This was an especially interesting office hours, I thought. Sue is asking, oh, what's the name of the app? It's WhisperFlow right here. Hang on a minute. It's called Flow by the company Whisper right here. It is superb. Download it and try it. They give you a bunch of free usage every month. Just try it, but I warn you, you will be quickly hooked. And yes, I know that there are AppSumo deals that purport to do the same thing. They're not as good. They are not as good. Okay. Well, folks, that's going to wrap us up for today. I hope you have a delightful weekend. I hope you do no work at all and you get to have a lot of fun with families and friends and get to do what you want to do. I will see you back here next Thursday for office hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.